everybody. I did some baby powder sprinkling on the last spread so it wouldn't stick. And I wanted to point out these lovely little marks in the bottom right corner. I love that. I love how things show up like that. Today is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to throw just about everything at this. I haven't done some of the things we're doing today, so I think you'll appreciate it. I did pull out, I always start off contemplating little bits of tissue prints to see, keeping in mind that if I need to, I could use them, but I'm putting them aside because, of course, I never know until I get there if I'm even going to use them. But I just wanted to show you that I never have my tissue prints far from me in case something gets me going. These are very inexpensive. Well, I don't think they were really inexpensive pencil crayons, but I certainly don't like them. Every time I go to use them, they break, the leads break. So these are the cheap ones I use for mark making, and I keep my good ones for coloring when I do some really good projects. So I'm just doing some circles. I've decided this time for my mark making, I don't intend this staying in the background. I intend on bringing these marks forward through the spread so that they will be there from beginning to end. And it's not what I usually do, but this time I do intend on having them show up. So that's why I made a deliberate pattern on the top left. The rest of it is just scribbles. They may or may not show up later, but I for sure want to expose those circles on the top left. And I kept them in a color range. I'm going to use yellow, orange, and pink and red. And those will for sure show up, especially if I don't do too dark of a color over top of them. I have not put any matte medium on the paper yet to protect it. So that means that any paints that I put down wet are going to get absorbed into that paper. And I don't mind some of that. I'm always showing you options. So what I'm going to do is spray it with some water, and I'm going to clamp that because the book's getting so thick it's hard to keep the page flat. And as soon as you spray water on there, the pages want to bow open, bow out, and warp. So I'm using my Indian yellow. You know, I love this color. It goes on so bright, and when you add water to it and dilute it, it goes lemony. So it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to try different techniques with the paint flow today. That's just one of them. And again, I sprayed it so that it wouldn't get absorbed immediately. Oh, and wipe that. I don't mind that I got a little in the back there. That's because the page curled. And when I sprayed the water, it sprayed into the back. But that's okay. All these pages, it's okay if there's little boo-boos on a blank page later on. So I like the pattern that's happening here. I'm mindful of grabbing any, soaking up any water and ink, paint that sits inside that inner crease, because that's where it will bleed through to the other side possibly. Because this book is bound with string, and in those areas where the string is, the string can carry like a wick the paint to the back layer. So anyway, I'm going to let that dry naturally, not with the blow dryer, and I've got a nice soft brush, and I'm going to start with a warm red. I quite often use the that's the warm red. The first one was magenta, and it's a little bit brighter and really good for pink, but I felt like using some warm colors today. So that's why I brought out that Pyrrole red. I'll have them in the notes, all these colors. And I'm going to give this a go while the pages are still wet. Notice how strong the reds come out of the bottle. I'm barely touching the page to keep it pink. There I accidentally put too much on the brush, and it came out really strong, and I don't want to overpower those lovely circles that are colored on there. So I had to spray that to bring back the color and make it a pink wash instead. And I love that. That's exactly what I wanted. And I don't even mind allowing some of that flow of red down through the yellow to the bottom of the page, and we'll let that dry and see how it sits. Because I haven't coated the paper, it's pretty interesting once these washes dry, how they spread out before they're completely dry. And they also go quite pale. So what you see now is brighter than what it will dry. But I always start off with pale colors, and I add more and more layers of darker as I see needed later on. So I'm just adding a little, I'm barely touching, and I'm actually using the shape of the brush to feather around some interesting brush shapes. Again, it won't dry quite like that. It'll settle and spread a little, but I'm just having fun with some patterns. This is all just an underpainting, except for that top left. I don't intend on that being an underpainting. I intend on that appearing like that through most of the spread. I use these page protectors, but they do, that one side there is plastic, so you have to put some more absorbent paper towel there. Otherwise, the plastic just stays wet and it touches the page and gets the page wet. So anyway, I'm starting really light, putting a little bit more red. I want to balance the bottom right of the spread with the top left of the spread. So that's why I added a little bit more. Again, I've got to keep dabbing that center. I don't want the water to pool there and the paint to pool there. And it's pretty interesting. So on the left, the flow of the paint is going down. And on the right, I'm allowing the flow of the paint to go up. And it's quite interesting how it's flowing like that. See that it's going to dry a little more dispersed, but for now, that's pretty interesting pattern there. I always just go organically and see. By the way, I'm not throwing out this paper towel that I've used because now it's going to dry really pale, but I have done art journals where I saved that. I cut out shapes from it like flowers and pasted that down, and it went with the page plus gave an interesting texture. So I'm putting that aside. I may or may not use it. This is dry now. Bone dry. It went a lot lighter and it's got some interesting textures, patterns, and shapes. I have had in my stash these sheets of fiber, and I decided today I would use it because it's already got a nice creamy base color to it, which I think complements already quite nicely with this spread. And I'm tearing it so that it's random, and as you tear and pull it away, it pulls and separates some of those fibers, and that's kind of fun. I want to release those fibers and let them get random and torn and haphazard. I've got a bigger piece there than I need. I do not want to hide all those lovely ovals that I colored there, so I want a smaller strip of it on the left. So I'm trying to find 3 areas to glue this down without them all being the same. So I've got my matte medium, which I use as a glue. So twofold here. One, I'm going to cover the entire page with this matte medium. It acts as a protector for the page because what I have down now as an underpainting, which I'm calling this, I want to preserve it just like it is. So I want to protect that with a coat of matte medium. But while it's still wet, I will use that medium to glue down these fibers. Lots of fun. Now, I'm not too sure what the fibers are, if they're a linen or a cotton. I don't quite know. I don't have that information on the sheets. I got them from somebody. They gave them to me, and I put them in my stash. So I can't give you any more information. But quite often, if you go to an art store, they have drawers and drawers of patterned papers, and you can quite often get something like this from an art store. So I'm putting a good layer of matte medium down because it's quite thick, the fibers, and I want to make sure they stay glued down to the page and become part of the page. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. It helps my channel. It makes me encouraged, and I thank you very much for your support. I love doing this for you, by the way. I absolutely love it, and I like hearing from you, so please don't be shy. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you would do. Tell me where you're from. Tell me what you're all about. I like it. And I hope that you're sticking with me for all these lessons because I don't mind being generous with my time, showing you all my tricks. I apply all of these. If you look at my Instagram at Jo Miller Artist, you'll see all sorts of other projects that I've worked on, and you might start to recognize some of the techniques I used in those projects. And I would like to think that, first of all, if you're not an artist, you're just having fun doing art journals like this, and it gives you a lot of joy and time out for your soul. But if it ends up allowing you to become better and takes you into directions you never thought possible, I would love to hear from you about that because that would make my heart sing. I'd really like to know that you're getting a lot of joy and pleasure out of these videos. So I'm just continuing to add matte medium and pasting down the fibers. And I've got it all over now. I'm just making sure that it's all down. And I like that there's not fibers everywhere. There's a bit of a pattern. And we'll see. Again, I have no idea what they're made of, so I don't know how they're going to take paint. But my goal is that once this is dry, which I believe this is now, my goal is that when I put fluid paint down, it will flow in and around all those crevices and pick up the pattern of those fibers. I like what's happening down there with those pencil crayon ovals. I like what's happening there with the shapes and the subtle shading of the pinks and yellows. I'm just pointing out some little areas that I like. Now I've got some drawing gum. I use this for watercolor as resist, and I thought it'd be fun because these high flow acrylics, the technique I'm doing here today, it's very much like using watercolor. So do not use a brush. I'm trying to show you, you'll ruin any brush. Get a silicone brush or a toothpick or anything else but a fiber brush because it will ruin your brush on the first try. So what I'm doing is a generous coating, and I'm using the silicone paintbrush to spread that around. Really good coating. What I'm trying to do is use this as a resist. So those pale colors that are underneath, I'm going to maintain those pale colors within these circle shapes. And any paint that I put over top is going to, of course, change the color of the page, but not where the resist is. When I peel that apart later on at the end, it will reveal these colors as they are right now that I'm covering up. The pale pink, and up above I'm going to do some over the pale yellow. Again, this is a resist, and it will come off later. Once it dries, it's a little bit like rubber cement, but a little more watery. Once it dries and I pull it off, it's going to reveal these colors underneath, and it'll be really fun. I guarantee you're going to like this. You could have done this with dots and patterns in other ways, like, you know, you could just do anything as a resist. This just gives you an idea of what you can achieve. And the sky's the limit, people. You could do any kind of shape. This is tomorrow's Valentine's Day. You could have drawn hearts with it all over the page, and that would have been fun and appropriate. But I just wanted to use my theme today as circles. That's good and dry. The drier it gets, the more dark blue it gets. That just shows you that it's dry and ready to go. I would not add paint over it until that is good and dry. So I'm going to start off. I thought it'd be nice to use this red iron oxide and water it down. As another color, because they all work so well together. Again, I have no idea how the fibers are going to absorb that. Actually, I think that might be the nickel azo gold. I use both of them in here, so I'll have them both in the list. The red iron oxide is going to be a little darker than the nickel azo gold. So what I want to do is put some of this wash. I've wet it with water so that it becomes a wash. And I want to put it on the page and then let it disperse around the page and getting caught up within those fibers and create patterns. And I haven't done this before, so I'm just giving this a try. That might very well be the red iron oxide. And I do love that color on this spread, but I notice up where the fibers are in the top right, look how dark and brown that's getting, and I don't like that. And at first I thought, oh, what a disaster. But later on I saw that it dried quite pale. It's just that the fibers are just soaking it up so well that it's really a strong color right there. It will improve. So what scared me at first, there was no need to be alarmed because it does dry lighter. It just took quite a while for those fibers to absorb it and dry and lighten up a bit. I'm just coaxing it around the page by tilting the book. I like to have everything organic. I like color movement and energy, as I said at the beginning of my video. And that's my theme all the time, color, movement, and energy. And I'm just loving watching how paint flows around a page and the energy and the layers and the movement that I can get. Other than the theme of this having circles everywhere, I have no other plan in mind for an image. Again, I never do have obvious themes, very seldom, except if I use a stencil like the rose stencils or something like that. Most of the time, everything's very random. I like my viewer of my abstracts, at least, to take their own journeys, and I don't like to make things too contrived for people. I like every viewer to have their own impression and their own journey. I'm going to spray some of that off because I thought it was just too dark and brown. But again, it dried lighter and I wouldn't have had to have worried so much. But there you go. It just shows you that while things are still wet, you can spray water and remove some. And it doesn't hurt doing that because it keeps the spread light, bit by bit getting darker. So I'm trying not to be too drastic at once. You can see now where all the fibers of the sheet of fibers that I put down, they're really starting to pick up color. Again, I'm adding some red. It seems very bold and dramatic. But we'll see what happens. You don't know until you try. I really encourage you to be bold, experiment, and try things. That's the only way I learned some of my techniques, is to be bold. There were many times where I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? Now I love the bottom right, how that pink has sort of spread out in the bottom right. I think that's wonderful. It's kind of a good complement to the top left. Remember, every time now that I add more and more paint over top, any of those masked areas are going to preserve the color that was there below. This is still a mid painting, I would call it at this stage. And I've got to wait a while. I had to walk away quite a bit today and let it dry because the fibers were so wet. Here it is bone dry. Look how much lighter it is. I forgot to record this next part, and I had added some magenta to bring out a little more pink and sprayed a lot of water, and unfortunately I forgot to hit record, so I apologize, but that's what I did. Now I'm dabbing a little bit away and I'm going to let that get sprayed off as well. I was just trying to get rid of the look of brown and really have more of a look of red and pink, because I still at that point didn't know if that was going to stay brown or if it was going to lighten. This is a real experiment today, people. I hope you're enjoying it. I thought I've tried so many other things. Let's do something completely new. Look how pale that dried. It's quite fun. It's almost like a forest floor in the fall. All those spots there are still, I didn't do an awful lot on the bottom right and top left of the spread for adding different colors. So I thought I want to really enhance, especially the top area there where it was that resist put over top of yellow. If I peel that resist away and I didn't put strong colors over top, it's not going to show up as an obvious yellow circle. So that's why I'm trying to add a little bit of color wherever those resist areas are, just so I can show you the contrast and the effect of using a resist like that. And as it dries, it will disperse as it will. So these areas here, the left and that area there, again, that's still original colors from before when I put the resist down. I got to deal with that. But right now, what I want to do in that bottom right is balance it from the top left. I love the shading that's going on there, but I thought it'd be nice to put a pattern. So I brought my orange pencil crayon out, and I'm making a pattern of dash lines. On the top left with circles, down here it's lines, little short lines. Now it's not showing up very well, it's quite subtle. I'll see how that works out later on. Because the pencil crayon is more subtle over the pattern, over the colors, than an acrylic paint, it is very, very subtle. And I might like it like that, or I might change it. And I'm just encouraging because there is matte medium all over the spread, that's why it's taking a while to dry. And I can move around this paint while it's still wet because it's sitting on top of matte medium. So that area, see how the original, it's not much different than the original. So because I want that resist of those circles to show up and reveal that original color, I need to put more colors over top to change the upper level, the upper layer. And when I pull that resist away later, it will reveal these pinks. So I hope you understand. You'll get it when we pull it off later. It'll be quite dramatic and fun. I've got my nickel azul gold here, and I just love that color. It's so vibrant and warm and cheerful, and it just blends so well with these pinks and yellows. I just love it. It's really, again, this will all dry a little lighter. It's going on strong. But at least I'm adding a little bit of color now in those two areas. It's dry now. Let's take off that resist. It's like rubber cement. Once you catch it, it just pulls off. And you could use the rubber cement from the first one, like a ball, and help cling to the resist, and it picks up the rest. So you see how that pale pink is showing through? It almost looks white, but that really is the pale pink, and that's the yellow from the page below. And if I wouldn't have put the red over there, that wouldn't have been so bold. And the bottom right ones are a little more subtle because it's pink on pink. But this is the effect I wanted to show you. You could have, like I say, you could have done hearts, flowers, you could have done anything. Polka dots. So much fun using that resist. Now I'm going to get a Posca pen out, and I'm going to go over those dashed lines because the Posca pen is made with acrylic ink, acrylic paint. It's going to sit on the top layer better than the pencil crayon did. So it's just going to bring it forward a little bit and have those dash lines sit on the top surface. You know, I like to create depth. So I've got the background page colors in the background and these dash lines sitting forward. And it looks a little bit like some of those circles that had the resist. Seems like, especially the yellow one, like they're sitting on the top surface as well. So I like the layers happening here. There's only one thing I want to do now. I want to bring those fibers to the top layer. They're there, they're obviously there, but I want you to see the actual fibers. So what I'm going to get is an oil pastel, and I'm going to break it so I can use the flat side of it. The top, I don't want you to color like that because it's harder to skip over the surface of the paper. The whole point is to lightly scrape it along the top surface. I'm not pressing hard. And what I'm doing is I'm picking up the threads and the strings from the topmost surface. I'm not pushing hard. It looks like it, but I'm not. I'm really lightly picking up just the top fibers. And I picked a complementary lemony color. Wanted to show you up close. So see how it's just picking the uppermost. There's probably some lower fibers as well, but the ones that are on the very top layer are the ones that are picking up this oil pastel. And this is a lot of fun. I do this a lot with textures of, if I don't have fibers on a painting, but I have textures, I will do this quite often as a last touch, and it picks up top surface details that you couldn't even think of painting. They just get revealed. Now I want to lighten that a little bit with a white. I like the lemon yellow, but I wanted to add a little white to brighten the page up a bit. And again, I'm not pressing too hard. And look at that. Now you can really see the fibers. That's so much fun. I hope you like it. I just love it. This is everything I wanted it to be today. It's a short video. Everything worked out. Sometimes you don't have to spend an hour on something. Well, it took more than an hour, but for the video, it's less than an hour, and it's just a half hour, and I like that. You don't always have to work really hard at something. Sometimes things just, if they come quickly and naturally, then go with it. So I love this, love it a lot. Now you can really see all the detail of the fibers. Now you could put some shiny medium over there, and it would preserve all of that pastel, and it would give a nice shiny coat over top of the spread and make it even more vibrant, but I quite like it as it is. It's up to you. So there's no other theme on this page except fun with textures and layers and circles, and I really love this one. It just makes me happy. It's not hearts, could have been hearts. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody, and hope to see you again soon. Stick with me. There's more to learn. Have a great day.